This is things you might not have heard, and we're going to present for you in a moment the best of yesterday's news, or as you told us was the best. Information, politics, current events, and pop culture all covered as your go-to supplemental source for both mainstream and unconventional news. We call ourselves your news side piece, giving you some stories, a good mix of stories that have both the big top stories and some smaller ones that get missed out because they're covering some of the bigger top stories. We've got 8 stories for you this morning as I presented it live, 5:50 a.m. Central Time here on this Friday, the 30th of June, and we're glad to have you along with us for the ride. Thank you so much for being with us for the show. We're going to start off with Jonathan. Well, we're going to get to Jonathan Majors in the whole thing here, but we have 7 other big stories that were vetted by you as conversational over the past day. You can find more details about that. We'll get to that in better explanation, but go to our main website. This is theconversationproject.com for more behind the scenes details on what we do here for the Conversation Project. As we said, Friday, June the 30th, 2023. July starts tomorrow. The third quarter, the first half of the second half begins tomorrow. Let's get this day off started off so we get into it on a good note. Starting off, let's start with Jonathan Majors. Let's have that one up top to bat. Jonathan Majors files complaint against ex-girlfriend over arrest. Majors' legal team filed a domestic violence complaint against Grace Jabari, alleging she is the one who attacked Majors. The Creed 3 actor has denied all charges and accusations against him and told police that Jabari was the aggressor in the March 25th incident. Yes, it's been since March 25th since we've been dealing with this thing. He also said he sustained injuries from Jabari following the incident. He is personally charged with assault with intent to cause physical injury and harassment of physical contact. Sounds a bit overly legalese, but that's what he's been charged with, and we've been dealing with it since March the 25th, where he's basically disappeared from the world, and now his jobs are in jeopardy because of the incident. Let's move on to another incident that's going to have a lot of people's lives in jeopardy going forward, at least how their lives will play out. Supreme Court guts affirmative action, effectively ending race-conscious admissions. Now, this is a fairly blunt headline, and it's really, really deeper than this. The Supreme Court did not actually kill affirmative action, but left it mortally wounded pretty badly, and so we'll see what happens with that. The historic decision, the U.S. Supreme Court invalidated race-conscious admissions programs at Harvard and the University of North Carolina. The decision reverses the decades of precedent upheld by narratives and narrow Supreme Court majorities that included Republican-appointed justices all this time. So for many, many, many years, you've had the Supreme Court holding up affirmative action. Now it doesn't for most cases. What you're going to see a lot over the day are people's thoughts on this. A lot of thoughts yesterday, thoughts going on for the next couple of days as they figure out, including the final day to put out the last bit of Supreme Court issues. We're going to find out about the student loan forgiveness plan today as well. But a lot of talk back and forth about who actually has suffered and who's actually has glorified from affirmative action, how it's helped some folks, how it's hurt some folks, and essentially how, while it's not perfect, it has caused a race conscious that is probably unnecessary in the world of education and in business as well. This is a deeper thing you need to really read into, so check out the link to read into. What we know is that the 2 cases for Harvard and University of North Carolina, the race-based allegations of allowing that to be used as criteria has been struck down. This will ripple down to all colleges, universities. We shall see how that works on that level, and then how it works in the private sector. Our next story has this headline: Scot Peterson, school resource officer, gets not guilty verdict in Parkland shooting trial. That's Scot Peterson, a 60-year-old fired Broward County Sheriff's deputy, was armed with a handgun when he arrived on the scene on the Valentine's Day mass shooting. Peterson was charged with 7 counts of felony child neglect, 3 counts of misdemeanor culpable negligence, and perjury for allegedly lying to investigators under the oath about his accounts and actions under that day. He was acquitted on all counts after more than 19 hours of jury deliberation over about 4 days. This is essentially there. Of course, people who were at the Parkland or lived in the area or at Parkland that day and survived the ordeal, not extremely happy with this one. This is another one that takes a lot more deeper talk and deeper thought to go into. Check out the link and read the full details, or search for Scot Peterson sometime within the day. This is something that's going to be talked about other than major things with Trump trials, Ukraine, and the Supreme Court, this is something that's going to be talked about fairly often when they get a chance to put it in there. So make sure you are up to speed so you understand what this really means. Another story that's continuing and will continue to be somewhat of a headline here and around the world, especially in the area of France and Paris. France sees third night of violence as 17-year-old shot dead by police. That's a very blunt headline. This was pulled from CNN as the headline, so it is just what it was. But this was the third night, and essentially as Paris goes on, France is seeing a fourth night as protests are spreading across the nation on this incident. About 3 days ago, a young man and 17-year-old child was shot by police for allegedly no reason. There's stories behind this after failing to, basically behave at a traffic stop. That has started the first night, and the second night, the third night. The mother has basically went to the public saying, "I'm not anti-police. I just want something done about the man who shot my son." Pretty much simple. We kind of know how these things work here in the States, where it just goes on and on and on. It's essentially the birthing of the Black Lives Matter before it went to political and they started buying mansions. That's a thing that happens when you do your grassroots programs turn into programs. But right now we're dealing with the raw emotion and the just pure shock and anguish in Paris right now. But this is something that we've seen often here in the States in various swaths, so we kind of know how these things play out. We shall see how it plays out as the French president and many officials are coming up with days and meetings to kind of deal with this, to figure out how to deal with what's going on. Because while smaller place of space, the actual incidents are overtaking just as well as any place else. The next headline reads, Geraldo Rivera says he's been fired from the Five and has quit Fox News. So we have a very short link here from the robot editor from the Deadline article that we pulled for this one. But it's essentially, Geraldo says he wasn't leaving the Five because, his time was up and he wanted to do other things. The Five basically said, "We're tired of you, Geraldo." And Geraldo first said, "Well, I got some other corresponding things to do." Or maybe Fox said that in their news coverage, because Geraldo says, "Fox, I'm done with you." Geraldo Rivera said he was kicked off the panel for the Five for favor of the other liberal panelists, mostly for kind of, I guess, getting into fights and saying things that just were too unfoxy for Fox. And then Rivera just kind of gave it up, basically going into his social media, going on paddleboarding yesterday and saying, "Yeah, I'm taking a long vacation because I'm done with Fox," which Geraldo can kind of do. We'll see where he pops up next, because kind of a grifter, kind of a money guy, kind of a needs to be someplace. I'm not sure who's going to take him next, but we shall see what happens and whether he goes to Newsmax or he does Geraldo the blog. We shall see. A rash of incidents are around this headline. Kelsea Ballerini, hit with object thrown at her during concert, stopped singing. Kelsea Ballerini was the latest person hit by an unidentified object on stage and stopped singing before leaving the stage for her safety and just kind of shake things off, if you will. So remember, a fan threw a phone at BB Rexa a few days. We talked about that a bunch. Also, Pink has been attacked with aerial assaults, and Ava Max as well. So this is becoming a thing. Why people think they should throw things at folks, I don't know. I remember, I heard of, because I wasn't quite conscious at the point, many people talking about Tom Jones concerts and panties being thrown at him. These aren't panties. These are cell phones and large pieces of jewelry. And I don't understand why. It makes no sense. But it is one of those things that is what it is. This is something that Anderson Cooper probably did not make it into his lineup last night. Barbie is glamming up for an $80 to $100 million opening with pre-sales bigger than The Little Mermaid. Oppenheimer has shopped at $50 million, I should say. This is coming from Deadline as well. And you guys really glammed onto this one. Honestly, this is one of the top actual stories for the morning that we pulled from. Barbie is going Hollywood, literally. She's got a movie coming out starring Margot Robbie and Ryan Gosling as one of the Barbies technically, and one of the Kens technically, although they are the Barbie and Ken in question, as they go to the real world and deal with real world things. And we'll see how that plays out on the movie screen. I think we'll see. I think I have to take the kid to see this one as well. She doesn't want to go see Oppenheimer, which I do, and I'm kind of geeked up for that one. But it looks like some pretty big sales for some more summer movies. The summer movie blockbuster may not be at the height it was in the past, but it's coming back. Even though so many movies are on the streaming services and they go to streaming services pretty quickly because they have to, people are ready to get out again and get the spectacle that is sitting in the chair. Now, we shall see exactly how the opening goes, but it looks like Barbie is going to be, the sweet spot for Barbie is going to be people under 35, females, and 35 to 49-year-olds who are basically buying the pre-tickets for what's being bought. They're buying a lot of adult tickets for this Barbie movie, if you will. We shall see how she plays out, how the whole movie plays out in a few days. And it's taken one day for Pixel Fold screens to break. Now, I almost pre-ordered a Pixel Fold because I thought, hey, it was cool. The biggest problem was it was twice as much as the Pixel 7 Pro, and so I didn't know if I want to deal with that much phone and that much money being out, especially since I got other things to worry about right now. And just looking to upgrade the phone because it needs upgrading, going overboard may seem a bit much. And it seems like it is a bit much because these are the same issues that people had with the Samsung folding phones they originally had, because there were issues with pixels coming out and phones breaking and cracks in middle lines because it's new technology and something new. We shall see what the fix is and what Google Pixel Fold version 2 comes to look like as it improves on things. But yes, they do stress test these things. Yes, they do see how they work. But it turns out once you put them in the hands of regular people who don't know how to keep things, pristine and just sort of drop their phones, because trust me, people just sort of drop phones because they exist, it becomes an issue. There is no issue unless you make it an issue for our teaser story for on Monday. We'll call it the weekend because you have all weekend to keep it alive. This story is one we can chat up in the show, the things you might have heard come Monday, because we talk about stories that you tell us to talk about in the feeds. You tell us which stories by your engagement or more important, or more interesting, I should say. Not so much important, because the Barbie story, not that important, but you guys found it very interesting. So when you go to our Facebook and Twitter feeds, our pages on Facebook and Twitter, facebook.com/This Is a Conversation Project and twitter.com/th_conversation, you will see news headlines and links posted every 50 minutes, plus some info things and some ads and whatnot. We want you to engage in the stories, the headlines, the news stories, so we know what stories you find conversational. That's how we get the judgment from you. Like them, love them, hate them, share them, engage in them, and we get a score to go through. We'll give you 10 stories Monday morning to cover 30 of the top stories from the weekend. That's Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and a little bit of Monday before we cut it off at 4 a.m. The headline we have, those two T's, if it survives the whole weekend, is Bed Bath & Beyond lives online. I like the way they did that. Overstock.com buys rights to bankrupt retailer and changes name. So the Bed Bath & Beyond's overnight online action is still alive. And it's because they're now bought and owned by the Overstock.com brand. You can go and read the story and see exactly what this means for you, exactly what it means for what you're going to get from them, how they're going to sort of parlay the successes of the stores that are still fairly successful, because they're very, very recognizable brand, and the non-success of the retail stores in general right now, to give you some of that stock and keep it fairly low, because Overstock does that as well. You can tell us what we want to talk about, including this story here, by just following us on our feeds all weekend long. And Monday morning, we'll let you know what some of the top stories you chose were from there. Now, let's go to today's prime sponsor. Today, we're going to talk about AppSumo. Last week, we talked about AppSumo a lot as they suffered. I say suffered because it seems like that's happening. Prime Days seems like penance in some cases. But they suffer through, and we suffer through AppSumo days, or Sumo days, if you will. And what they had was, it wasn't really a day, it was about 4 days, where they offered deeper discounts to their AppSumo Plus subscription, and of course to some of their AppSumo apps that are in their sales funnel. What you get from AppSumo is lots of great apps, lots of great programs, lots of things to help you organize and manage and get your business and sometimes personal stuff together. They have things for AI, things for video, things for organization, things for organizations as well. and things to make your life work better in general. And what makes it work even better is the fact that most of these things are extremely discounted and give you a lifetime of use. There are more than a few lifetime use apps that I use from AppSumo, and more than a few pretty big apps now that started off as AppSumo deals that some people who got in early can attest to. You can get in on the next big thing by going to AppSumo and getting in on these deals. Go to this is theconversationproject.com/AppSumo. This is theconversationproject.com/AppSumo, and go find an app for yourself today. This is an affiliate link, so as you buy from AppSumo, we do get bits and pieces off those exchanges. Those exchanges. The word is exchanges. And if you enjoy them, they should take good care of you. It costs you nothing extra, but go get there and get your great discount on that next app to save your business, your work, some time at AppSumo. Now we're going to talk about our promotion of ourselves, the Conversation Project. The Conversation Project lives online at thisistheconversationproject.com. That is our online home, our website. We have the feeds we talk about often on Facebook and Twitter, but we house everything of import at the website. If you go to the website, you can see more of our sponsors. You can see our partnerships page, where if you want to partner up with us, there are ways so you can connect with us on there. You can see some past episodes of all of the things we produce, being the things you might have heard, also the weekend shows, the weekly wrap up, and of course story of the week, and just ways to connect with us across the interwebs and various social media sites. Make sure you're following us on those feeds, though. The most important thing you can do to help us out and cost you very little other than the time you're already spending online is go to facebook.com/thisistheconversationproject or twitter.com/th_conversation and follow us on the feeds, engage in the stories. Also share the feeds and the videos and the audios and the newsletters and all those things for other folks so they can be more informed and hopefully join in the conversation as well. We need more people in the conversation. This is a delightful project, but it's a project that needs some stuff. Most times I spend this moment, doing the partnerships thing, and if you're watching the video, you see this scroll at the bottom asking you to do that as well, because we do need to do the pledge drive, we do need to do the sales stuff, we do need to keep the lights on, as they say clichély. But the biggest thing that we get is getting your responses via emails and, of course, your reactions inside of the social media. Replying to the social media feeds with your reactions is always a joy and abundantly see your comments there. So comment as well. I'm asking you to comment as well, along with engage in the sharing and the liking and things like that. And now we have done all the stuff that's the academic stuff, the newsy stuff right there. It is time to get to the fun stuff and just enjoy ourselves as we roll into for the end of the week, wrapping up this whole thing, full shebang for this week. Let's get to birthdays for this day. It is June the 30th, and we're going to celebrate happy birthday wishes going out to Vincent D'Onofrio, who's 64 years old. It's hard to believe he's actually that old. He's been playing a lot of great roles, and I guess staying in shape, and and all that he's playing the kingpin, doing those things to stay in that sort of shape. He started off essentially came to fame, if you will, more likely from Men in Black, and then did his time on his version of Law and Order. Did a bunch of really weird things where he played this sort of creepy heavy guy, and now a heavy guy who's kind of creepy, the Kingpin. He's taken over for the Marvel cinematic universe, I guess, even though it's the Disney Plus shows. We're going to see him next coming up in Echo, I believe, and also in Daredevil, I'm sure. And he may pop up in the next Spider-Man, we may see. So happy birthday to that badass. That's Vincent D'Onofrio. Badass Mike Tyson, once known as the baddest man on the planet. I guess still known as that, although he doesn't, go boxing. Him throwing swings at random people would get him in trouble seriously, and doesn't go well with this nice, calm, serene sort of life he has right now. Making a big living on his second, maybe third life in media and just being Mike Tyson, 57 years old on the day. Badass Cody Rhodes is 38 years old. You may not know him per se if you're not a current fan of professional wrestling or sports entertainment, as they like to call it, because professional wrestling, Although more people call him professional wrestling, to be honest. Cody Rhodes is the son of Dusty Rhodes, the American Dream, and right now he is playing a character who, after a while of sort of shunning away his dad and his dad's legacy, is now calling himself the American Nightmare, where the Dream has come back and he wants to do some things and support the legacy that is his family. His brother Dustin also still wrestling as well in other independent venues, but Cody Rhodes right now back as one of the major stars in the WWE after not having good luck the first couple of runs because he was played out as literally a clown or a space alien technically. But Cody Rhodes turning 38 on the day. Let's move into history, things that happened on this day. Looking back on the 30th of June, starting off in 1859, where French acrobat Charles Blondin crossed Niagara Falls on a tightrope. Blondin, sorry, poor read on that one. A first person to do this feat, followed by many other feats across this that were not very successful. Probably a few beforehand that did not work so well as well. In 1994, U.S. Figure Skating Association stripped Tonya Harding of her 1994 national title and banned her for life for attack on competitor Nancy Kerrigan. You may remember the memes if you're old enough. Jeff Gillooly going out on the ice, whacking Nancy Kerrigan in the knee while she's practicing, and Cher on the ice going, "Why? Why?" That all happened a few days before this, but the verdict laid down on this day in 1994 for Tonya Harding. And in 2015, that is, Misty Copeland became the first African-American principal dancer of the American Ballet Theater. It's been a long week, so bear with me for the reads, but these are three things, two of them fun, one of them, oddly enough, just morbidly funny, in the life of history of this world, since one happened in Canada, technically. So let's move on to today's celebration. On this Friday, the 30th of June, go out and find yourself a food truck and eat from it. It is Food Truck Day on this. Food Truck Day is the last Friday in June, and that means the 30th today is your day to go out there and celebrate on a food truck. Because people are gearing up for the July 4th weekends, there's a lot of things happening going on. Chances are there's a festival, there's an open weekend someplace, and maybe on this Friday, just the general food trucks that gather near your offices. Go out there and get something off those trucks. Help those small business owners continue their legacy. Some food trucks are a very unique type of a business. They are a restaurant, they are a caterer, they are a mobile unit that can kind of pick up and go, and depending on what they're actually serving, be extremely efficient in some places, or sometimes they're just basically the place that holds essentially a big catering service. But food trucks are becoming more and more prolific across the nation as viable places to stop and eat, and just places to make good money for, celebrations or not. So find yourself a food truck and celebrate them today. Even if it's something small like an icy or a churro, get something from the food truck today. Get some ice cream, since it's ice cream. We had ice cream earlier this week. Celebrate ice cream from a food truck. Sounds pretty tasty. So one more thing. Let's say that one more time so we can cut it up in the editing. One more thing you might have heard. 20 years ago this week, happening officially on June the 27th, the National Do Not Call Registry went online at donotcall.gov with the intent of blocking sales phone pitches from nearly all sources. The National Registry, a project of the Federal Trade Commission more than a year in the making, was inaugurated at the White House ceremony led by then President George W. Bush. At the time, the FTC estimated that the list would block about 80% of telemarketing calls. At the time, telemarketers were to check the list every 3 months to determine who does not want to be called. Those who were called listed people could be fined up to $11,000 for each violation. Many Americans today have little faith in this list. The registry now includes more than 221 million phone numbers. As we know, having your number in the Do Not Call list will not necessarily stop all the winning calls, as scammers often ignore the registry to call anyway. That's why your cell phone picks up numbers that it sees as potential scammers and spammers, and will tell you spam risk or a risky call, because the phone companies figured out that while they may not all be spammy calls, they're all calls that are probably unwanted. And no, I don't need that loan. I'm not going to extend my warranty. And those little blue pills, I've got enough on the shelf already. Thank you very much. Thank you so much for being with us for today. It's Friday, June the 30th, 2023. Tomorrow is Saturday, July the 1st. So we're going to go into the very next month, starting come back for the weekend. So a little bit of June, and the start of quarter 3 begins in earnest for our next countdown or our next or replay of stories from the weekend. Our next countdown will just essentially be all the June stuff because it's all stuff this week. Countdown coming this weekend. So stop by our website or follow the feeds we have, or look for in your podcatcher to find the other programs we do, including the weekly wrap up, which will be the top 10 stories based purely on the numbers of your engagement. None of the moving around to find which stories are the better ones. Stories 1 through 10. Plus, we'll tell you what stories were kind of close, and the story that had no shot at the very bottom of the weekend that's coming here. Plus, we'll take one of those 10 stories and expound on them in the story of the week. Give me a chance to editorialize a little bit deeper, a little heavier. I thank you so much for all the praise and for some of the not so nice comments out there. Some of them actually are helpful. Some of them are just because trolls are trolls, and you can't complain about my face because I don't do that in video. So, there you go. In the meantime, keep showing up at our feeds. Keep being there for us so we can be there for you, letting you know what stories are truly the most conversational. That's how the shit goes with this thing. And make sure you're staying hydrated, staying limber and on task. I basically finished this bottle of water as I was working up this morning. You can be such a grand person, do great things for folks, and you are doing them. You probably don't even know how many you're doing right now. We just need you to be around for all of those things. It is the 4th of July coming up in 2 days, but fireworks are all over the place for people already, so please be careful. And once in my radio life, every 4th of July we had the talk with the medical doctor, the ER doctor, to talk about people blowing off their hands with fireworks because they do it every single year. Don't be that people. Don't do that. Please be safe with your fireworks and enjoy some time off, whether you're getting 1 day on Tuesday, 2 days, Monday and Tuesday to stretch the weekend, or getting away for a full vacation. A lot of people using this week to get away for their full vacations. Enjoy yourself. Enjoy being you. Hopefully you enjoyed what we're doing. And if you're not on vacation, or maybe you still want to get up early, make sure you stop by. We'll be here on Monday, 5:50 a.m. Central Time, for more things you might not have heard. That for the weekend.